Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Janda, and please welcome to our Operation Freedom platform, wethepeopleprocessing.com. You know, are you tired of being threatened to be canceled just because you have a company focused on liberty and freedom? Well, worry no more, folks. wethepeopleprocessing.com is your go-to merchant services, freedom-based company to provide business service payment solutions. We the People Processing provides their clients a cancel culture-free platform which is domestically based. They provide competitive rates, no contracts with next-day funding, a fully vetted and like-minded financial infrastructure, and full support for integrations, implementation, and e-commerce efforts. Bottom line, wethepeopleprocessing.com focuses on defending your company's free market growth, values, and future. Check them out at www.wethepeopleprocessing.com. Once you're on the site, enter in password Operation Freedom or call 855-499-2024. That's wethepeopleprocessing.com. Then, when on the website, enter Operation Freedom as your password or call 855-499-2024. Another individual who does that is my first guest and a very good friend, Joe Bastardi. Just as we are fighting this battle on the front as it relates to the freedom-stripping virus, which is what I called it in January of 2020, not 2021, 2020. That got me taken off of YouTube for a while and Twitter because I called COVID the freedom-stripping virus. Gee, I wonder what I knew that, well, had come to fruition starting 3, 4, 5, 6 months later. Yeah, right. It is the freedom-stripping virus. And my first guest, Joe Bastardi, takes on the freedom-stripping agenda as it relates to climate change. He's been outspoken about the climate is changing, always has been changing. But to pin this all completely on a man-made climate change, not so much. You see, Joe Bastardi is somebody the deep state despises because of who he is. He is dedicated to accountability and transparency and science and data. He's a graduate of Penn State University with a degree in meteorology. He is the chief forecaster at the best weather site online, weatherbell.com. Joe is well known for his accuracy in forecasting weather patterns, and Joe has also been an outspoken expert, underline the word expert, on climate change. In addition, he is a phenomenal author. His recently released book, The Weaponization of Weather, is fantastic, and it's mandatory reading, should be mandatory reading in every classroom and in every home in our country. If you don't have it, get it, and then network it. It's my honor to welcome back my friend, Joe Bastardi. Joe, welcome back to the Operation Freedom Show and platform.
Well, it's great to be back, and I'll tell you what, as the days wear by, I realize that, the good Lord has put lights in my life, like Dr. Dave, and our paths are so parallel. I can't even describe it. And that what he's up to and what I'm up to, the common link of deception. We don't have to call it deception. Let's put it this way: non-transparency and non-information in both of these subjects is just astounding. And there's only so much anybody can do, but a large part of the fault is with the American public and the complacency and comfort that our capitalism and freedom has actually led to. It's led to such a prosperous society. We've been blessed beyond belief by our Heavenly Father in this country, and we just take advantage of it and just assume certain things about it, and that complacency allows people to creep in that for whatever reason, and I think a lot of it's jealousy, envy. I was listening to Jesse Kelly the other day. I think he had a good point that a lot of the people in power now were the nerds in high school and they don't want to give up power. Now, I was a nerd in high school. I really was. I was bullied every day until I started wrestling. And then I just got beat up in the wrestling room all the time. But I figured, okay, I'll get beat up in the wrestling room. No one's going to touch me outside the wrestling room. Yeah, I mean, that's the way it was. And fortunately, I had a dad that, taught me that you have to stand on your own 2 feet if you want to actually walk. So, in any case, there's just something going on today. The combination of that, I think, my brother brought something up that was very interesting to me yesterday. We're talking on the phone, and he says, it's almost like you've got a conglomerate of people that they're like this, Thanos character in the Avengers. Like, they believe to control and save the world, you have to destroy a lot of things to do it. And, I was, at first I said, Matt, come on, but my brother's really, really smart. And I started thinking about it, and he started naming some names. And those names are similar to names that Dave has brought up several times in organizations. And basically, it has come down to a situation where people who believe they know better want to control people that they believe do not know better. And you can circle all the way back to the Apostle Paul in Corinthians saying that. Those who know what they know don't yet know what they ought to know. And I don't mind them having their own opinion and stating that opinion. I do mind when they do these other things that are going on now. The classic. We just had a classic on Friday. I don't know if anybody caught the. Supposedly there was some climate conference with the president and vice president, and they're telling the Pacific Northwest, which has been dreadfully hot. There's no question about it. That it's climate change, and I go, well, first of all, do you know that the average precipitation in Boise, Idaho, for instance, in the month of June, July, and August is 1 inch. Boise, Idaho, by August 15th, may be above normal for the summer because there's a lot of rain coming in there over the next couple of weeks. It's feast or famine in the West all the time, all right? Secondly, you have 4 times the amount of people living there that used to have lived there. And, folks, demand is part of the drought index. The demand on the aquifer and the things that we're doing out there is just phenomenal. And some of the stuff, the craziest stuff is the wildfires. There have been more wildfires this year than average, but acreage burnt is only 75% of average. Every year there's wildfires out there. And I'll tell you what, it was really bad in the 20s and 30s. In the 20s and 30s, 5 times the amount of forest used to burn than burns now. And that was just on average, even the biggest years that we have now. And the politicization of this and what is going on, the weaponization of it, I call them, what do I call it, clickbait, weather weaponizing media, all right, where people use the weather not for the purity to follow the weather and to come to the right answer, but to whip up whatever panic they want to whip up or get a lot of clicks on their site because you get paid a quarter penny or whatever the heck it is per click. I don't know, but it's in COVID, it's in climate, it's in anything you want to look at, and it's really a shame that it's come to this.
Joe, I want to play a clip for you, and for our audience that was recorded on April 27th, 1961. In New York City. It's President John F. Kennedy addressing the Publishers Association of the United States. And it goes back to the conversation you alluded to earlier between you and your brother, and what you've outlined and what I've outlined on whether it be climate change or whether it be what I call the flu d'etat, that some people call a virus. I want to play this clip for you. Derek, hit it.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
60 years ago, Joe, he was talking about today.
Well, so Eisenhower before him was too. You know, with the he talked about the military-industrial complex and all the history. Hippies love that, but there was also the scientific government complex where the elimination of the individual inventor by use of I have a chapter on it, the weaponization of academia, in my book, and this is what's going on. Look, for all his faults, and you got to remember, I was born in New England. I am the son of New England John Kennedy lovers, okay, who, by the way, switched to Ronald Reagan because the natural evolution of what you heard from John Kennedy was Reagan and then Trump. All right, Trump. I get a kick out of the way people were hammering Trump. All he was an old Democrat from the 70s. I mean, the reason why guys like me, like Donald Trump and what he stood for is those are the same things. I don't like foreign wars, foreign entanglements, for instance. I believe in trying to make your country strong inside out, all right? And there was a time when that party, despite its major faults, which we know about, that have been conveniently turned around and pushed on the Republicans in regards to race issues, there was a time when they, say what you want, John Kennedy's, stood for something. And that's what's really interesting about, I got a lot of friends who are Democrats, went to college with them, and they just don't see that this is not the same party as John Kennedy. John Kennedy could not get elected dog catcher in the Democratic Party today. I mean, and even there's something with the, RFK's son there standing out against the vaccine the way he does, although I think there's a vast difference between a vaccine that's taken 30 years to develop as opposed to one that, when I read it, and fortunately I'm involved with people that look at it, I'm not an anti-vaxxer per se, but I see no reason to push that on anyone, especially young people. But this is a part of the problem. Most people don't know the facts, whether it's the vaccine, whether it's climate, whether the fact that, with abortions, 75% of the abortions are children of color or minorities. I mean,
True.
And this is what gets me. I'm going to speak up on it, okay? I'm pro-life now. Now, look, when Jimmy Carter was running for president, I was a big Jimmy Carter fan. I was a natural evolution, the Democratic Party. Thought Jimmy Carter was a very good man. I still believe he's a good man, all right? But, Jimmy Carter was pro-choice. I was pro-choice, okay? And actually an argument by William F. Buckley turned me around. I would never force my opinion down anyone's throat. I will ask them to look at facts when they say a guy like me, because of my political beliefs, is racist, when I support the sanctity of life and that most of the kids being aborted today are children of color. And you see, this is what I'm saying. Now you say, well, what does abortion have to do with climate, Joe? It's the same hidden facts. Racism, same hidden facts, all right, that go on. Climate. COVID. So what John Kennedy was talking about was exposing all the information so that people will go and look. Now, I'm going to tell you something, folks. You know, the media and the folks that Dave talks about, the lamestream media, they only take advantage of where the wave is taking them. The real fault lies with the non-curiosity, the non-vigilance, the non-virtuous part of our society today that does not give a darn. When 42% of millennials do not believe in God or do not believe God has a darn thing to do with their life, so they become just, water that's getting ready to get swept downstream with whichever current is coming. All right? And the reason this country has been successful, despite its faults, and I always say, look, I understand we have our faults, is because we stood for something. Deep down inside, we believed something. And when you have people, and hey, oh my goodness, the left is brilliant. They figured it out. They had a long-range plan, and they did it. They basically said, look, if you look at all the revolutions that have occurred, whether it's the Nazis, the communists, the fascists in Italy, whatever you want to call it, there were severe conditions that were going on. The people in Italy were desperate. Look, my dad has talked to me several times about my grandfather that apparently was like Mussolini, right? This didn't come up until my grandfather died. My grandmother said something to my dad. My dad, what? Were you crazy? Mussolini? And when my dad went and researched it, the conditions in Italy after World War I were abysmal. The Italians lost 1 million men in that war and did not get a nickel after it was done. So you look at that. You look at the Weimar Republic and what was going on in Germany. You look at what was going on in Russia. These conditions were desperate. That's not happening in the United States, except if you create a victim mentality where no one has a chance in this country, where you are downtrodden because of the system that has beaten you down and kept you down, including you rich kids that have all this money and go to school for $50,000 a year on your parents' dime. I mean, I see 20-year-old kids here at Penn State driving around BMWs. All right, so I'm sitting there looking at all this. What has been created is a false sense of need, a false sense of revolution. And it's been what they have hijacked. I don't care if it's climate, it's COVID, or whatever. What they have hijacked here is gratitude. The gratitude that we have been blessed as a nation, that yes, we have our faults. Yes, we should try to improve those things. But their idea is, let's tear the whole thing down, start over again, and we can control the whole thing. Look, folks, it's the American system, not America stealing from people, that led to the blessings in this country, okay? All right, that we understood certain things. And that's being destroyed. And the way to bring down a house is, what do termites do? They eat away the frame. If you don't have a strong foundation of your house. And you got to give it to the left. I mean, seriously, folks, they have been brilliant. They completely hornswoggle the Republicans on every single thing. I sit here and watch it. I said, Joe, speak the truth, tell people what you believe, but don't think that someone in Congress is actually going to do something about this, because they're part of the whole thing too. I hate to generalize it, because there are a lot of good people in there, but they understand that they believe it's a game. And to me, guys like me and Dave and a lot of people, it's not a game. All right. It's our nation. It's our country. It's our our ability to worship God the way we want. So anyway, climate, COVID, I don't care what it is. It seems to have a common thread today. So and here comes the hurricane season, by the way. So that's going to get weaponized. Never mind, folks. We have a record-breaking low severe weather season going on in the United States. Second lowest tornadoes, first lowest hail, second lowest wind damage reports, all right? Okay, it's the 11th coolest June on record since 2000. You don't hear any of that, do you? Right? You hear the exact opposite. It's classic cherry-picking weaponization of weather, but it's the same thing you're seeing in all the other things going on, all right? So, bad weather exists, COVID exists, but, you got to suck it up and tough it out and be the best you can. And if your freedoms are limited, That ain't going to happen.
So, Joe, today, Steve Milloy from RealClearEnergy.com wrote the following. To advance the climate agenda, never waste bad weather.
Of course
and
not.
Here's what he says. We are not living through unprecedented bad weather so much as we are living through unprecedented exploitation of the weather for bad ends.
Yeah, I tell you, Steve. I know Steve. Look, the weaponization of weather and the phony climate war. You know, I feel like I just got out of church and we're talking about the Holy Spirit and humility in church, and I'm sitting here. I sound like I'm bragging on the book. That book should be read by everybody.
It should be. I completely agree.
You ever pick something up that you wrote and you said, "Oh, what was I thinking?" Or I didn't express this the right way, or I should have done this. I pick that book up and I go, "Holy, I believe God's hands in my life. I don't believe God makes me write something or God makes me forecast something, but I constantly look to my Heavenly Father for spiritual guidance." And I'll tell you what, despite my reluctance to write that book, I'm happy I wrote, because it describes perfectly what's going on.
It does.
I mean, even down to the way to stop this whole thing, which is very frustrating to me, because you got an entrenched scientific, and I'm one of them. I don't believe CO2 is wrecking the weather. What I do believe is CO2 is being used as something to destroy our country. So why not take that weapon away from them very cheaply and very efficiently, which we can do if we wanted to. And I see no movement on that.